Well, first we got to mention we haven't seen Forrest Anderson in a long time. 48
Yeah,
hours.
it was 48 hours ago.
He's here from Washington Street Pond, as well as Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. We're talking firearms this hour of the program, as we do on Friday mornings. Guys, before we even get started, I've got to share a couple of things with you. Well, at least one of these, and I happened to see this. Of course, I was sitting here rifling through my paperwork, but there's a story out this morning. Seattle, we talked about this, I think, the fact that they had a gun tax and they were taxing ammunition. They got sued by a group of people, Second Amendment advocates. They went to court. Seattle had to reveal that in the entire time they had the tax in place, they collected $108,000. 83,000 of that came from just one dealer in the city. A lot of the dealers moved out of town and went out to the suburbs to avoid the tax. And Seattle lost the case. In fact, a judge in King County, Washington, which is considered to be very liberal, ruled against the city and said that the tax has to go. It's unconstitutional. And the city apparently spent hundreds of thousands of dollars defending itself in the case, and they have to cover a lot of the legal expenses of the people who brought the lawsuit as well.
So the law cost them a bunch of money
It did.
in legal expenses. Plus, people moved out of the county to run their businesses.
Well,
So
and beyond
crazy.
that, I bet you they said they brought in 108,000 in tax. Well, they had to hire someone
yeah,
to monitor that and supervise that. So I bet you they were losing money anyway, just in administrative costs.
oh yeah,
And that's the
easily.
thing with bureaucracy. They make all these departments and all these committees to oversee, and it costs twice as much as whatever they're trying to regulate. It's just ridiculous.
I was going to say, it says here that they had estimated they would collect $400,000, so they got a little over a quarter of that.
And
Wow.
probably spent more than that.
Yep.
it just but every week we come across one of these stories. It's like they're like the Borg in Star Trek. They're relentless. They keep coming at you and coming at you, but they keep losing and losing and losing. It's like at some point, do you think that these people would learn their lesson? And that Second Amendment is quite clear. You can't mess with it.
Well, you got all these people that they're so anti-gun. You got all the people with the money behind them that'll come in, like Bloomberg, and he funneled a lot of money out there to do all the advertising and push all this stuff. And so when you got people like that don't care and they got more money than God, and they're willing to funnel it in there, they're just going to keep hammering away and they'll take little things they'll try for big things, but then if they get little things, they'll just keep hitting it, hitting it, hitting it.
Well, then you bring this up. There's a group of people who were encouraged to sue after the shooting at the movie theater in Colorado a few years ago, in Aurora, Colorado. And they were told, if you go ahead and you sue the people who made the firearms and the ammunition, and we're going to make a statement. So the Brady campaign got behind these people. The Brady campaign encouraged the family members who lost loved ones, to go out and file lawsuits. But the people ended up having to spend their own money. They did not win. The Brady campaign vanished. And now some of the folks are telling, according to National Review, are telling reporters that they're bankrupt. After being encouraged to go sue on their own, they got nothing left.
Yeah, that's just it. They were just pawns
Yep.
in the agenda to ban guns. I mean, rather than going after, spending that money to better mental health care and better identify people with mental health issues, they said sue the gun companies so we can have our big day in the press. Then once the cameras went away, they walked away from those people. Those people went bankrupt. Now those people don't have jobs. They don't have homes. They sold their possessions to do this lawsuit that they were encouraged to by the Brady campaign, and now they're bankrupt. And the Brady campaign is nowhere to be found. They're not supporting them. All they were a camera op, a photo op. We're going to stand by you while you say you're going to sue these companies, and then we're going to vanish.
So on top of now being broke, not having any money, bankruptcy, they were in this shooting, so they've got all that to deal with. They've lost family members, they've lost loved ones. I mean, their lives are done.
I used to live just a few miles away from Jim and Sarah Brady. They had retired and they were living on the beach not far from where I was working, and they both passed away just in the last few years. Sarah used to come by the radio station and do segments on the air with me. And I'll put it this way, if she had still been alive, people don't know this, she actually bought firearms for their son. He liked to target shoot, and so she bought him various firearms. And she even said to me, she said, my main concern is just mental health. She said, I'm not out to take anybody's firearms away. And because they had been longtime Republicans when they had worked under the Reagan White House and the like. And I think that since she and her husband, well, they helped kick the thing off, used the family name, and their involvement with it became less and less over the years, and now they're gone. And whoever is running it now is just simply, I think, running counter to the mission that they actually saw.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not you can lay an AR-15 on the floor loaded, safety off, and it's going to lay there until somebody picks it up and does something stupid with it. No one's going to get hurt. But that's the problem is we're going after everybody instead of going after if we put stiffer penalties for gun crime. Like if you walk into a bank with a firearm and rob a bank, or you walk into a school with a firearm, you're going to jail. A mandatory 25-year minimum sentence. People are going to think twice about that. Because it's not like being caught with a bag of weed or something like that. Whatever people are doing and getting huge sentences for, which is kind of ridiculous. People are getting caught. If you have a firearm and you're committing a crime with a gun in your hand, that means you have intent that you're saying worst case scenario you're going to kill somebody. So put them in jail for 25 years minimum sentence. That will go away. Why punish all the people doing it right, the 99% of people doing it right, because you're too afraid to go after the 1% that are doing it wrong? That's ridiculous.
I wanted to mention, we should point out that when it comes to firearms, that both Todd and we should mention Forrest too as well, to some degree make their living off of this industry. Forrest, for people who are not aware of it, I mean, Washington Street Pawn, you deal in a lot of different merchandise, but firearms too as well. And for people who'd like to know more about the shop, what do you tell them?
Well, stop by and see us. We're at 321 Washington Street right here in Twin Falls. Our phone number is 208-735-0012. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of us is just send us a message on Facebook. That comes straight to me. I can answer that. And like you said, we do everything. We do a lot of guns, but we do computers, jewelry, tools, bicycles, game systems, you name it, we've got it in there. Right now, we do have a lot of really cool used firearms, everything from FN to Benelli to everything in the middle. Tons of hunting guns right now too. Some cool stuff.
It's collectibles now and then too.
Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of those Texaco collectible trucks came in. We've got a whole set of those that just came in. Our sister store, Magic Valley Pawn, they have a ton of knick-knack stuff. They just took in a cool Lionel train set. So, yeah, stop in either one and check us out.
And Todd, Patriot Defense.
Yeah, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. I don't have any upcoming classes scheduled as of right now. Really busy month with just some family stuff going on.
That mink that's trying to get into your hen house.
Yeah, well, it doesn't know what I do for my day job or my side business. So I'm keeping an eye out. I'm patrolling all weekend for that guy. So I will have some classes set up in September for sure. I still have plenty of time that if someone wants some private instruction, I've been doing a lot of that lately. In fact, I just did a class last night. You give me a call. We can figure out what you want, what you need, and we can get it set up one of these evenings during the week or on the weekend, and we'll have a good time.
We haven't talked much about that, but private instruction. Now, when I was at one of your classes, about 20 people in the room, in the classroom, but private instruction, you could even travel, I'm sure, with that.
I could, as long as it depends. I mean, they have to have a good safe area for me to shoot. It's it's nicer if we can do it at my house, but if they have a nice, good backstop, a place for us to go shoot, and I check it out and deem that it's safe, I'm up for that as well.
I was going to say, people out there who many of them may not want to be in a big class. So, well, some of us who were just getting back into it after being away a long time, you're a little bit worried about how you're going to be perceived by the other people there.
Right, and I do have people. In fact, I had a gentleman who's actually taken a couple classes now. He's taken actually 2 private instruction classes, and it's because he hasn't handled the firearm much at all, and he wanted to, he doesn't need to be super proficient at it, but he wants to be safe with it. He wants to understand it. He wants to be comfortable with it. He's taken a couple classes, and now his next step is going to be an actual one of the permit classes when I take it. That's what's next on his list. So we can do something like that as well. I mean, I've had people come into my class, they don't know anything, they've never shot a firearm, and that's fine as well. But some people just want to make sure that they understand what they're doing and make sure this is for them. And a private instruction, a couple hour private instruction class is the way to go.
I want to mention if you've got a question or comment for both Todd and Forrest or each one of them today, feel free to give us a telephone call. We're at 916 and we're at 73 right now. Bill Cowley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. One of our callers in the last hour mentioned this. We always say telephone number 7360300. But actually, we do get calls sometimes from around the state and sometimes even across state lines. As of tomorrow, 208-736-0300. That's 208-736-0300. So if you're tuning in and you've got a comment or question, feel free to give us a shout. But that's just a reminder that 10-digit dialing is taking effect tomorrow, so you may as well get an early start on that. Got to point out quickly, we talked a little bit, in fact, when Forrest was here the other day, about hunting season. If we get a little time, let's talk a little bit about that moving forward, too, because there's some safety issues that come up there as well. In the meantime, we'll go to the phones, and caller, you're up next. You're on the air.
The left-wing loonies who are concerned about Americans having guns to protect their families are silent that Hillary let Russians have 20% of our uranium that could end up destroying our cities and killing millions of us.
You know, I don't think our firearms is going to be much of a defense there.
No, and when you look at the statistics, they're like guns were responsible for this many deaths in the country. Guns are way down the list. I mean, there's a lot of things that should be banned before firearms because they are just not even in the top 10 of things that kill people, especially like AR-15s. That's one thing that they've talked about. Hammers kill more people in this country than AR-15s, but it just doesn't fit the narrative. So they just try to frame the story so it fits their narrative because they can't get done, as long as there's an armed populace, they just can't get done some of the things they want to get done. It's hard to force people to do things when people can defend themselves, and that's kind of what they're up against right now.
The comment you made last week stuck with me all week long, and that was the Founding Fathers had lived that oppression. So we don't necessarily always understand how bad things were, but they knew it, and they knew what could happen.
Yeah, they experienced it with, that's why this all came to be. There was many of them that didn't even want to leave English rule. They just wanted the oppression to stop. And finally got to the point and said, okay, well, if you're going to keep the heat on, then we're going to have to go a different direction. And that's what they did. And those people lost everything. You hear about some of the many people that were successful after that and had some notoriety, but the majority of the guys that signed that document, many of them died. Many of them ended up in poverty. They lost everything to bring freedom to the rest of us. So a lot of those guys, if you ever read the Constitution and read the Declaration of Independence, you see the people that signed the bottom of that. A lot of those guys gave everything to make that happen.
We've got to take a short break. We've got more coming up. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and Bill Cowley this morning on News Radio 1310. KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 74. Our guests are talking firearms this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. We're at 74. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn. Bill Cowley with you, too, as well, answering the phones. Telephone number 736-0300, 736-0300. So we've got people who are going to be going out and doing a lot of hunting seasons that are on the way, and there's always some question. Of course, number one, you got to be in good shape to go out and do this.
You don't have to be. It helps.
It certainly helps. When I was a kid growing up, deer season would open, and the first day you would not necessarily hear about any accidents where someone was hit by fire, but you would hear about the heart attacks. Those would happen right away because people are excited. They're moving around. Maybe they've been moving around a lot. So you'd hear about that on opening day a lot and through that first week. But there's obviously some safety issues that come into this when you're out there with firearms too, because, some of the worst stories are generally friends. It's not even strangers. Friends get confused. Somebody gets hit. When you talk safety, there's general safety to handling any firearm, but in that situation where Give you a quick story. I had a friend I worked with many, many years ago. He had been in Vietnam, and he told me, he said, when you're out in the jungle, your senses are just attuned to the fact that any minute someone may just pounce. He came back on leave, and he said they flew him in. He said, he says within 3 days he's out deer hunting with family and friends, and he said somebody stepped on a twig, and he said I turned left and just fired, and as it turns out he actually hit a deer right square in the head.
Wow.
But his reaction was to the twig snapping, and he said, I'm lucky that it was the deer I hit instead of somebody else. But he said it was just the instincts I brought back. So there's a lot to be talked about here about just the general safety that goes into something like any hunting season.
Yeah, I mean, when you're out and about, you obviously need to, be safe with your firearm. Obey the safety rules. You need to not take, sound shots. If you hear something, you need to make sure it's a deer or make sure it's the game that you have a tag for that you're shooting at. You need to know where everyone is. Okay, we don't do like we don't really do deer drives here. So a deer drive is where you line people up and they walk through and you never know where someone is. So it's not about that, but there could be some other hunters on that hillside. What if you're down in a canyon, down in a little valley or something, and up on the hillside there's a deer up there? Well, you don't know maybe what's behind that deer. If there's trees, there could be some other people up there. You need to know where everyone's at. You need to be safe. Take the safe shot. You can cross fences with, gun unloaded. Keep it pointed in a safe direction. School your kids on these things. There's accidents every year. You hear all the time. Every season, someone getting shot by their son or daughter or even a relative.
A lot of people getting cut with knives, cleaning their animal. The biggest thing I see out there that is a safety concern for me is if you are taking new hunters or young hunters, do not leave them unattended.
Yeah.
Their decision-making skills aren't what yours are. But we see it. I've been out there. I see a lot of 10, 12-year-old kids riding on a four-wheeler by themselves with a firearm. First of all, get off your ATVs. Get out of your side-by-sides. Spend some time in the countryside because you're not only scaring the game away for yourself, you're scaring the game away for everybody else that's out there trying to do it right. Nothing worse than putting a stock on some game and then have somebody completely oblivious that there's even an animal there go bombing by on a four-wheeler.
I understand that, but we need to keep them out of the areas that I hunt, so they need to stick to the roads, not push farther
Well,
in.
I'm not even necessarily talking on the roads. A lot of times they'll come off the roads. Be aware that there's other hunters out there and be courteous. If you see someone like who has a duck blind and they're already in their area of decoys out, don't set up 50 yards from them and start sky busting everything that flies by. I mean, be courteous. Be the kind of hunter that you would want someone else to be around you. And to me, the biggest thing with safety is letting young kids out there with a firearm unattended, kind of sending them out on their own, or it's one thing to put your kid on a point and say, okay, I'm going to push these deer down this draw, and one might come by, and if there's a buck, take a shot. But you also need to spend a significant amount of time before the season shooting that firearm so they're proficient with it.
There was last year. I like to duck hunt a lot. Not any good at it, but I like to go. And we were set up out on this little point. There's kind of a section of water between us, and there's a dike that people can walk across. And we understand that that's where people walk. And so you see someone, you should wave at them, let them know you're there, and you let them pass. It is what it is. Last year there was a kid. He didn't look like he was that old, and he had I'm assuming it was his younger brother or sibling or someone with him. There was no adult around. And they just went bombing down this dike. People were here, hunting here, and on either side of it. They didn't wave, they didn't stop, they didn't do anything. Just completely unsafe. I mean, they're all camouflaged up. It's a little hazy. It might be a little foggy. You don't know that they're there, and they're just cruising down this dike. I mean, they were able to get across it fine, and nothing happened. They were noticed, but something bad could have happened. Where an adult needed to be there to say, "Hey, look, this is how we approach this situation. This is a place you haven't been hunting before. We don't just go tooling in front of people." And they were right in the right in the shot zone. I mean, bad things could have happened there. So they need an adult. They need someone responsible with them to help them and show them how to do it safely.
And I know that, and maybe we can mention this. We've got a break coming up in about 30 seconds. My dad gave up deer hunting when I was little still because he was hunting along a ravine, looked down. First day he thought, how can I get so lucky? So he takes down a deer, starts to scramble down the ravine when all of a sudden two guys show up on the other side of the ravine, start firing at him. And, we don't think about this. It doesn't happen too often, but there are some bad people out there too as well. He had to take refuge in a rock by a crevice. They raced down the ravine, grabbed the deer, went back up the other side with it. And he said at that point, he decided never again. He put away, everything he had. Said, I got 3 kids at home. I'm not going to risk it. And that was the end of it. So, got to be aware. You got to be that situational awareness. We've got more coming up. Talking firearms this morning on Top Story. It's 9:30. We're at 74. Our studio guests talking firearms today. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and Bill Colley answering the telephone today, 736-0300. 736-0300. We talked a little bit about hunting safety and firearms, and obviously it's a critical part of it. But I brought up at the very end of the last half hour, it's not necessarily just, you've got to be trained, you've got to be aware, you've got to make sure the children are supervised. But sometimes the hazards come from other people that you encounter, as I was pointing out.
Well, they do. Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about this actually before the show started. There's a lot of people that go out and hunt now in the state of Idaho. A lot. There's places that 15, 20 years ago, roads that I was on out in the desert where you never see anyone, that now I swear there's more cars on it than there is Highway 93 during hunting season. But I've had a few, not personally, but some people that I was hunting with, there's a deer, the deer shows up, you sit down to take a shot at it, and then someone else shoots at it too, and you shoot at it, the deer goes down, and then you have an argument on your hands possibly as to who shot the deer. Mm-hmm. And you both show up at it, walk up to the deer at the same time, and you don't know. Everyone's got a firearm, so your best bet on that situation, obviously, just to maybe walk away, let them have it. You go find another one if they want it that bad. But tempers can get heated up pretty quick out there. So it's, and the duck blinds especially. You got people. We had a guy. We were duck hunting once, and it was right 5 minutes before shooting time. Ducks were landing all the way around us, and some guy showed up late, walked right into our duck blind. Right into our duck blind. Oh, I didn't see you guys here. Okay, stuff like that's going to happen when you have a lot of people around, a lot of people hunting. You just need to kind of keep your anger in check and just excuse the guy. Let him go. Walk away if you can. Do whatever you can. But you are going to run into other people, and you can have some arguments if you're not careful.
I think the other thing, we were talking about this just before we came back on air, is social media completely changes people. So you see people poaching and hunting in illegal spots and hunting on private ground without permission, all in the quest to get that picture on social media so they can get a bunch of likes, get that affirmation.
Hits a dopamine.
Yep. It doesn't, that's not what's important. If you got a family, I took my 2 youngest boys out. We were lucky enough a couple years ago to draw Unit 44, and anyone that hunts around here knows that that's a great deer hunt. And there was lots of big bucks. My boys shot a little 2-point and a little teeny 3-point. And they were so happy about that. Now we could have, done some different things probably and come out of there with a bigger buck, but that's not what the experience is about. The experience is about spending time with your family. Getting some, if you're about meat in the freezer, put some meat in the freezer. But a lot of people are caught for poaching. A lot of people break just common courtesy laws, and a lot of people hunt on ground that they don't have permission to hunt on in the quest to get this giant buck or this giant elk, and so they can throw it up on social media. Don't let that change the whole meaning of that anymore. I mean, if we want meat, we can go to the grocery store and buy it, right? That experience is more about time spent with family and challenging ourselves and doing it right, having some ethics when we're out there doing it.
Like you mentioned, it's about making memories with your kids. Okay,
right.
What constitutes a good hunt on your part, and may not be what constitutes a good hunt on their part. You guys drew a great deer unit. They shot little 2-points and stuff, and they were on top of the world. I've got 2 kids I'm taking hunting this year. Both of them hunted last year. My daughter had to go in for some surgery on her hands and had some pins put in, and she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, if you can't even go shoot a rifle until you come see me again, because they're trying to wait for it to heal up, you may not be able to hunt. She was in tears. That's how much she enjoys going out and going hunting. These kids enjoy it. They like doing that, even if they shoot one duck or a doe or even not get anything. They just enjoy the memories. Make them good. Don't start problems with, don't have confrontations with other hunters. Make it good, a good experience for them. Make it something that they can talk about to their kids later on.
Teach them to do it right, so they can teach their kids to do it right.
We've also had some more interesting wildlife encounters, and just because people are going more and more back into the woods, whether for leisure or for hunting, we've got issues with mountain lions in Oakley. We've got another black bear attack in northern Idaho.
Mink and Buell, Idaho.
Mink and Buell. We've got there was the video that came out a few days ago. There was an Idaho couple that took the video. They were in Alberta. And the guy's riding his bicycle up a hillside, up a mountainside, and what happens but a grizzly sees him and decides he's going to check it out, and the grizzly's coming the other way at him before people honking horns were able to frighten the bear away. But we've only got about a few seconds before the break. Maybe we want to mention that a little bit later, too, as well, because you may take your bear spray and have those things, too, with you, but you've got to also think about how you would defend yourself even with a firearm in that situation, because they're out there, and between the harsh winter and the fires, a lot of them have been driven down a little closer to the valley. We'll talk about that in just a short while, too. We're at 76. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond in the studio with us. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. And Bill Colley this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're talking firearms this morning with Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 77. Hey, quickly, we should tell people how they can get in touch with both of you again. Todd?
Yeah, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. Go ahead and like the page. You can message me there. You can comment on anything that I post. As far as permit classes, I don't have one scheduled yet for August. I will get some scheduled for September. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of private instruction. We can get you into some of that. No problem. Just call me up. We can get you. I don't have any specific date set for that. You call me, and then we'll make a date. And we'll get you down. Whatever you need, whether you're a beginner, whether you need to learn how to draw, what you need to do, we'll tailor a class for you. So just let me know.
And for Forrest, for people looking to get in touch with you?
Yeah, stop by the store, 321 Washington Street. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington. Phone number is 208-735-0012. You can like our page on Facebook. We put a bunch of goofy stuff up there. We put a bunch of product up there because we have everything right now. Everything from snap-on hand tools to rifles, shotguns, a lot of used stuff, really good buys. I just marked a bunch of stuff down this week. We usually have our 200 and under wall. We've got a lot of really nice stuff. You can buy a nice pump 3.5-inch camouflage shotgun for about $260 in there right now. So there's a really, really lot of great deals hanging on the wall.
It's 9:45, and telephone number if you'd like to reach the program, 736-0300, 736-0300. We're talking wild animals a few minutes ago. There's some challenge here because you may try your best to defend yourself. First of all, they always say bear spray if you're hiking. Great idea. Not going to discount that. But there are some animals out there. My mother had a friend. She walked out of her back door one night to throw the garbage into the garbage can, and she had a carport, and she walked out, and she had the light on. She's putting the garbage into the can and putting the lid on when she realized there was a shadow, and she turned around, and there's a black bear standing there looking at her. Put the trash away, and he's probably thinking, "Well, hurry up and finish so I can get in there."
She was bringing out dinner.
Yeah. So she went back inside and got out of the way as quickly as she could. Smart thinking. And the bear was again more curious than anything else. Happened to be just standing there looking around, and that was the extent of it. And then there was the bear that was destroyed a couple of weeks ago because he was rubbing up against people at picnic sites. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But when we were talking about mountain lions and the like, I've seen Forrest hit moving targets at Shaw shooting, and I know that hitting a moving target's not easy. But this is the thing. You may think, okay, I'm going to go out there, and if I encounter anything, I'll just shoot it. But an animal that's moving and moving fast, and your blood's pumping, your adrenaline's going, this isn't necessarily easy.
No, if you've been the adrenaline, we've talked about it before. The percentage of shots that are going to connect with the target in a high stress situation, they say take your worst day on the range, and that'll be probably about how you'll shoot in a self defense or high stress situation. So, yeah, you need a firearm that's reliable if you're going to be out in the woods and be kicking around in the dirt and stuff, and then you just got to know how to use it. You just got to have time behind the trigger.
Imagine trying to shoot at something that's coming at you too.
Yeah.
Running toward you. I mean, you can shoot a moving target, yes, but something that's coming toward you, that's a whole different ballgame because then you're having to lead toward you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right, because if you're duck hunting, you're leading while you're watching the duck fly across the sky.
You got movement. You can swing the shotgun. You can swing the rifle.
Sure.
You can swing the handgun. You're pulling this thing in, trying to.
And it's not perfectly flat ground. You
Yeah.
could be shooting down a slope. You could be shooting up a slope.
Yeah.
It could be trees. There's a whole bunch of things in that scenario. The best thing is it's all the good stuff happens before. I mean, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Tim Curry. None of these guys walk out on the floor and like start shooting baskets and start making them. All the stuff that made that happened in a gym.
They learned. They practiced.
Before.
They developed.
The same thing goes with shooting a firearm. You're only going to be as good as the time you spent behind the trigger before you even got there.
And we can all set up a watermelon or a target or a can in the backyard and stand there every night and just plink that stationary target. But at some point, maybe you should think about broadening that training.
Well, always, you always want to learn more. I tell people to take my class, I'm going to teach you the basics. You always need to know the basics, but there's always much more to learn, and you should always be searching to hone your skills, learn how to draw a firearm, learn how to shoot a moving target, stuff like that. Because if you don't, you're going to lose that ability. It's going to go away if you don't go out and shoot and you don't practice and learn new things. If you're depending on your ability and your firearm to possibly defend your life or the lives of your loved ones, do yourself a favor. Learn how to use it. Just putting it on, getting your permit and just putting it in the holster and carrying it around with you does not make you an operator, does not make you an expert marksman by any means. There's so much more that you can learn.
I was reading a guy writing a column out of Colorado at High Country News yesterday, which Kelton Hatch jokes it's a liberal leaning publication, but they do some good stories. And I was reading through this, and I was reading this guy's commentary about how he goes to Safeway, and he doesn't bother him, but nearly everybody where he lives in this little town of Colorado, he said, has their sidearm on when they're in the grocery store. And he said, where we live, the small town is so quiet and so peaceful. You sometimes would ask why, but there you go. You hope that all of these people who are carrying those sidearms around the grocery store have trained, and this is maybe the reason you should train is because you don't know what the other guy has done.
Rights, responsibility is what it comes down to. Yeah, you don't know self-defense situation. Maybe that guy has actually taken his time and had some time behind the trigger, and maybe you took one class to get your permit and you haven't shot your gun in 2 years.
And that happens a lot more than what you think.
Happens a lot. One thing that I love is, some of the training I've been able to help with is guys who've been all over the world where, they're the best of the best. And they've been through a ton of classes in a bunch of different countries and just picking up some of the little things just little nuances, to do it just a little bit different, and it's just a little bit faster and it's a little bit more efficient. It's really cool to be a part of that and see that. But that's why you take some classes. Be better at whatever you're doing, and that applies to everything.
Would that be a concern in a situation? Let's just say, country grocery store. There isn't a lot of trouble, but you never know who is passing through town. If you have 10 people in the store who have their sidearms with them, and let's say 8 of them know what they're doing, but is it a dangerous situation to have 2 people who don't know what they're doing in a crisis?
Well, it always is, because you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know how proficient they are. You don't know if they're going to draw on fire. You don't know if they can shoot. Are they going to keep that finger off their trigger until they need to use it? How safe are they going to be? Are they going to shoot themselves in the leg? Can they draw their firearm? Are they going to sweep everyone in the store when they draw their firearm? Are they just going to be really, maybe not even just the act of training on the act of shooting your firearm, but knowing when to use it? Are they going to be Are they going to be quick out of the gate to pull their firearm and just start shooting?
Yeah, do they have any judgment?
Judgment training. Yeah.
They might be able to hit the bullseye every time, but they might not have any judgment at all.
I took a class in Kansas when I lived back there, my concealed carry class back there, and there was a gentleman in my class, and all he could say the entire, and this was taught by a couple of law enforcement guys, all he could ask the entire question was these what if scenarios. Well, if this happens, would this happen to me? Could I have used my gun to shoot someone? When can I shoot someone? This happened the other day. Could I have shot someone? Would I have been justified? And I looked at that law enforcement instructor in the middle of class and said, I pray that you do not give this guy his permit. He's looking for opportunities to use his firearm. And someone who is responsible, be responsible and know how to use your firearm, know when you can and can't use it. You should always look for a way to not use your firearm if you can at all help it.
And that's the thing. If you're in that grocery store and someone comes in the front door and has trouble, you can always, the great thing about the store is it's got a lot of aisles, they're high, and look for that back door and then out through the warehouse and out the loading dock and you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, you know the layout of the store, know what your options are. That's why I carry concealed, because it gives me options. I don't carry open. No one sees that I have it. I can put myself into a situation where I could go up and try to be a hero. I could put myself in that situation, go up and try to stop that shooter, or I can take my family, I can head out the back door, I can call the police, I can hunker down, have my firearm with me in case the fight is brought to me if I can't get out of the store. I have all these options, all these choices. It's not immediately draw the firearm and shoot. You were in my class, you saw that munitions video, that first one I showed, and that lady, what did she do? She said, because I thought I had a gun, someone came in with a gun, I thought I had to use it. How'd it work out for her? Not real well. I think she took 4 shots.
Yeah.
So just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it.
I was going to add too. I don't know how many grocery stores allow people to open carry inside them. Apparently, this Safeway does in this town. That's the other part that surprised me. That you would think most people would be concealing, but they're walking around with a lot of open carry in that particular town and in that grocery store.
And people have the right to open carry. I mean, I think there's been enough data out there that says, look, if you're a civilian and you're not in uniform, because if you see someone in uniform, you automatically identify they're probably going to have a firearm on them.
Right.
But if you're a civilian, the odds of you surviving and doing any good in a situation are increased greatly by concealed carry, because no one knows that you're a threat to whatever they're trying to get accomplished until you produce that weapon. And people say, well, I can get my gun out faster. Very few self-defense situations boil down to a quick draw contest with the other guy.
Right.
I mean, you need to be able to access that firearm quickly and be proficient with it. But if they don't see it coming, you have an automatic advantage right there.
Action is always quicker than reaction.
I was going to say, this is not like the Wild West, which never really existed, with people being quicker draws than someone else and dueling it out in the streets. And that's the one thing that I keep in mind is I've been hearing this from not only you two, but from law enforcement as well. If you are open carrying, then the bad guy knows who his first target is in any situation.
It very well could be. I mean, it could be. Since Idaho enacted this constitutional carry thing where you don't have to, I think it's funny because open carry was really popular. You heard all about open carry in Idaho. Then they enacted the constitutional carry, and the open carry guys were all about open. Oh, it's more comfortable, and I'm making a statement. You know what? I've barely heard anything about open carry since they pushed through constitutional carry in the state of Idaho. So I just think it's kind of funny. I think those people are too lazy to go take a class. And
well, and the other thing is if your thought is I want to make a statement, you're automatically got the wrong mindset right now.
I agree.
That should be to defend yourself solely, defend your family, get you out of a situation. Like I said, there's probably 10 ways that most situations can be resolved before you get to the point where you're pointing guns at each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people determined, though, after constitutional carry that perhaps it is a better idea to conceal. It seems to me that a lot of people who were open carrying decided, I like this.
Well, yeah, because now they don't have to go out of their way and take a class. They can conceal. I'll keep hitting that, and I'm probably going to irritate a lot of people, but I guarantee you that is probably 90% of it. They don't have to go out of their way, take time out of their busy day, and be responsible to go take a class and get their permit. So they just open carried.
And I can tell you, there's a ton of people that come to these classes who roll in, say, I've been shooting guns for 30 years.
I don't need this class.
I don't need this class. And they hold the firearm wrong. They don't know how to pull the trigger.
They can't shoot.
They can't hit a 4-inch target consistently.
They've got all these ill-conceived notions of when they can and can't use it.
There's a million reasons. No, that's exactly right. There's a million reasons why that class pays dividends down the road. I mean, for one reason, if you ever went to court and you were in a self-defense situation and that prosecuting attorney asks you, well, have you taken any firearms training? Well, I've been shooting for 30 years. No, I ask you, did you take any firearms training? That's going to work against you if you have not taken some form of training.
And they will ask it that way. I've seen lawyers in practice. And
they will.
Before we wrap up, quickly, guys, your contact information again.
You can call or text me at Patriot Defense at 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. Like my page on Facebook. Comment there. Get a hold of me. We can set up some private instruction. Go down to see Forrest and pick up my new favorite gun, a Kel-Tec PMR 30. I shot one of those. Fantastic.
They're fun. Washington Street Pawn, 208-735-0012. You can also visit our sister store, Magic Valley Pawn, 208-734-3334. We're 321 Washington Street. Facebook page, Washington Street Pawn. Send us a message. Stop in, shoot the breeze. We've got a ton of used, really nice handguns, shotguns, and rifles in right now. So if you're looking for a firearm or a laptop, getting ready for school to start, we have a bunch of those as well.
And we'll do this all again next week. God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back on Monday morning between 8 and 10 o'clock right here on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.